Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 50, that is 50 of TalentED. So we're hitting a landmark today, not a landmine, landmark. And TalentED, this is where we bridge the gap between education and innovative practices that can help shape the future of teaching, learning, and school success. So I'm Dr. Eric Skanson, joining you from the School Pro Studio here in Minnesota. And in today's episode, we're going to be diving into the transformative world of behavior analysis within these educational settings, and with a special focus on inclusivity and diversity. Our esteemed guest, Jeron Trotman, is a Board Certified Behavior Analyst. We shorten that up by going BCBA, and his renowned work is in advocating for equity and inclusive practices in schools. And I'm so excited to talk to him today. His commitment is about enhancing these outcomes through behavior analysis, and not only that, but through mentorship. He's made a significant impact on educators and students. And with that, I want to welcome Jeron to TalentED today. Jeron, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what's happening.
Yeah, for starters, thanks for having me on today, Eric. I really appreciate it. So I'm originally from Alabama, but I'm located in Atlanta. I've been here for a while now. So it's funny when you talk about behavior analysis. I really knew nothing about the field, and I was a Division I basketball player. Didn't know what I was going to do, and my coach's wife, so I was the captain of the team, and my coach's wife introduced me to behavior analysis, and I ended up doing an internship. And I was just amazed to see that behavior can be measured systematically, and that we can change people's lives by improving their environment. So from there, I went to grad school and just kind of progressed through the ranks and became a BCBA, and it's been great since. I have a lot of different passions with the science of behavior analysis. One of them is really using our science to improve the lives of individuals in the school environment.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what the referral may be, it could be a kid who's engaging in severe problem behaviors, could be a kiddo who's not communicating appropriately, not advocating for himself, maybe not have self-help skills, social skills, things of that nature. So yeah, we go in there, we do different assessments, we analyze it, and we have some fun in there that really improve people's lives. It's a pretty cool gig.
It sounds amazing. It sounds
Yeah.
amazing, and I'm sure you're doing amazing work.
Yes.
I'm just writing a side note down here that if I ever put together the school pro basketball tournament, that I'm drafting you for my team. So
You go, I'm your man.
uh, I'll take you. I cannot shoot nor dribble, so I think I'm probably going to be just best on the bench. So I'm going to put you on the starting lineup.
I'm down.
All right. Well, let's get into this. So let's talk about integrating ABA in schools, because schools is a place where behaviors manifest. Sometimes we see behaviors manifest in school that don't manifest at home. I'm sure you've run into some of this. How can ABA, or applied behavior analysis, effectively integrate into these educational settings to support diverse learning needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we typically become a part of the IEP team if the kid has an IEP, or just it kind of depends on the referral. But we focus on teaching and instruction. So we basically will go in as a consultant. It's kind of work that I do. We'll be a school consultant, and it depends on what the environment needs. So it could be a whole classroom that we may come in and make modifications to. It could be a specific learner
Mhm.
that we go in and make modifications to their environment. It just really depends. Typically, what I do as a consultant is we'll get a referral for an individual who, again, may be engaging in challenging behaviors or may not be doing doing behaviors enough. Again, it could be communication, could be
Hmm.
social skills, could be a lot of different things, self-help skills. And we go in, first thing that we'll do is we'll do some record review, kind of see what the records have been, what has been tried before. And in behavior analysis, we use the environment to effectively teach new skills. So then we'll collaborate with the teacher. Teacher may have her own way of doing things. And then we'll do what's called a functional behavior assessment. So a functional behavior assessment is essentially under getting a lot of data to understand, well, why is this behavior occurring or why is it not occurring? Once we do those FBAs and we bring them back to the teacher or the administration, whoever it may be, we say, hey, this is why the behavior is happening or it's not happening. And this is how we can fix it. And we call that our interventions. So after we do interventions, we write them up. We train the staff then to implement those interventions. And then we supervise and monitor those plans until we can fade ourselves out of the picture. So it's
Hmm.
really from the very beginning all the way through the process of consulting, managing, fading ourselves out. That's what we do as behavior consultants in the school environment.
Well, I imagine it is not a simple fix. These behaviors have been created over time, so it takes some time to come back and unravel them to help the student be functional, right? So, like you said, it's an absence of a behavior, or you're trying to, I imagine, curb a behavior as well. So,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and to your point, it can be very challenging. Some of these kids and also the adults have done certain behaviors for a while. So you're going in and changing somebody's behavior off of a long learning history. This is how
hmm,
we do things. And sometimes the teacher's behavior obviously is harder to change than the kiddos because
right.
they've had a long, way of doing things. So you can kind of really break it down for them, show them small things at a time, build a rapport. Rapport building is really big in what we do because if you don't have that, nobody
Hmm.
the intervention. So it does take a effort, a team effort. We're just part of the team.
I was just reviewing this quote with some other team members, but I don't know if you've heard this before, but rules without relationships equals rebellion,
Mm,
or rules with relationships equals respect. And I think to your point, like we have to have a personal relationship when talking about behavior and function and how we approach that in the classroom. It's got to start
absolutely,
there. Uh,
absolutely.
so I mean, let's flip a little bit into this role of representation, because this is a big piece of your work as well. So, as
Mhm.
an advocate for diversity in education, how do you see that your role in influencing schools to adopt more inclusive practices within their behavior support systems?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So two things here. So one thing that I focus on as well as representation of Black men in behavior analysis. That's one piece, and then another piece of it is to your point, kind of what we're talking about. A lot of the DEI work that we're doing
Hmm.
in our assessments, in our interventions, in the way that we implement those things. How are we sensitive to the things that we're putting in those plans? Does it represent the individual? Et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of goes down the line. So I'm looking at both of those things. They kind of coincide together as well.
Hmm.
And so I'm a part of doing a lot of the work that not only educates people, administration, teachers, etc., on how that may look, but also going in and doing the work and providing mentorship for individuals who are doing that work. So I'm kind of mixing both of the two together and
Hmm.
deciding, but it's very impactful and meaningful work.
Well, I'm sure you're very aware of some of the statistics from around the nation on overrepresentation of um, African American Black boys in suspensions, and so I think this is so timely and so needed that there has to be a different approach, because it's not um, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So there has to be a different way in addressing these needs.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And particularly you brought up that stat, which is a very significant stat, right? For like, a lot of the work that I do is we're looking at the experiences that we have, particularly Black men in this field, can result in different cultural variables being missed in our assessments and our treatment outcomes. So we really try to stress that as we, particularly like the areas that I work in, particularly here in Atlanta, Georgia, we really try to stress that as we do our consultative
Hmm.
process, and it's, again, it takes a lot of work. You're really opening people's eyes to things that they may not see, or maybe, subconsciously biased to, etc.
Hmm.
But again, very impactful work. Very impactful work.
So, I mean, a little bit what you're speaking to here is barriers too, right? So, in trying to change behavioral outcomes, we have many players at the table. We have teachers, we have students, we have parents, we have administration. Um, in your experience, what are some of the most common barriers to implementing effective behavior analysis practices in schools,
Mm.
especially I would say in maybe even underserved communities? And what
Yes,
what should we do about it?
yes, and the underserved community piece is important. A lot of different things. I would say number one is probably resources. There's barriers to resources that we may have in terms of being able to provide proper resource to provide
Mhm.
supports for the parents and for the students. So that's a huge barrier that we have. Another barrier that we have is lack of representation and lack of mentorship and education for the individuals who may be implementing those
Mhm.
plans. That's really tough to do. And then lack of educational programs and when I say resources, I mean the quality of access to teaching, access to
Mhm.
supervision, access to funding for the students, depending on where you're working. So all those are barriers. When we're asking parents to do certain things, teachers to do certain things, sometimes they may have not have the bandwidth or the again support to be able to implement those plans, and that's just
Mhm.
reality. So we modify those plans to still be effective with the bandwidth and the resource that they do have.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, without the resources, and I mean that's a call to, school boards, administration, state legislatures.
Mhm.
Uh, those resources have to be put in place.
Yes.
And training and education. It's just there's not enough time. There's so we got to find a different way. And I think that's what I love about you is that you're trying to do this in a different way, right? You're trying to approach this in a different strategy. Uh,
Mhm.
what Speaking of strategies, what strategies would you maybe recommend to schools looking to improve their inclusivity and support for students from underrepresented backgrounds through behavior analysis? That was a
Yeah.
really long question.
Yeah. No, I got the question though.
Okay.
It really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. I definitely think training is paramount to achieve the outcomes that you would like, particularly when it comes to DEI work. You have to hear from individuals who've maybe been in those situations or in those communities. You have to get training on how to appropriately address and modify the things that maybe you have done previously. So it does take time. And the school administration, all that, they have to make a commitment. And Eric, it starts at the very top, So
Hmm.
you have somebody at the top that has that vision for the change that you do want to make. It's usually not going to work. If you just have a couple individuals who are motivated and want to do that work, but at the top, it's not coming from there because it has to be modeled, it has to be reinforced, it has to be shaped from the top down. So when you
Hmm.
start at the top, then you can do your admin, your teachers, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the things that I would recommend, but we have to start with our leadership, our leaders. Our leaders
Hmm.
have to be the people that model that to progress forward to where we want to get to.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, do you have any success stories that you can share where ABA really significantly impacted a school's approach to supporting diverse student needs? Everybody loves a good story.
Yeah,
Every,
absolutely.
get your popcorn, everybody. Let's it's story time.
Yeah, so sometimes we'll get the opportunity to go into different counties that we haven't been into before. And I'll tell you a story from last year. We did something called, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with IEEs. So it's basically an assessment where we may come in and we'll do different functional assessments, OT speech. Everybody will kind of come in and with this kind of do different assessments to see if though they're different from the school's assessments. Um, so we went in there and did an IE. There's a kid who was engaging in some severe challenging behaviors. The school
Hmm.
never heard of behavior analysis, by the way. This kid was running out the classrooms. He was hitting teachers. He was hitting students. He was throwing things, using a lot of profanity, doing things of that nature. So we came in They were a little hesitant at first, to kind of allow us in, but it was through word of mouth. A parent had told somebody about
Mm-hmm.
a behavior analyst that had helped their kid, and they were advocates, so they let us into school, let us do our functional behavior assessment that I told you about earlier, and they let us write up a treatment plan. And we wrote up a treatment plan. We found out why those behaviors were occurring. Some of them were to escape instruction that was too hard for the kiddo.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some communication barriers there, but he didn't know how to advocate for himself appropriately. So he was engaging in a lot of challenging behaviors. So we did it. We went in there. Um, Long story short, the kiddo, we got his behaviors down to basically not happening at all. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
even notice the kid 6 months later. But it opened the school's eyes up. And now they are contracting BCBAs to come into that school now. And there's about 6 or 7 BCBAs in that school now working with about 20 plus students just because of that one parent who was an advocate that brought us in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those kiddos are able to get access to those resources that we can provide the school and teachers and everybody else in there. So it was really good. Just kind of just took one person, the domino to fall, and now
Mm-hmm.
that school, and I think it's spreading throughout the county now.
I
So
love it.
it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I think, when you look at that story, at the beginning of that story, that child was getting exactly what they wanted, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Exactly. The child figured out an algorithm to make sure that I didn't catch if it was a he or she, but that they were not going to do the work that was too hard for them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yep.
I mean, we have to look at root cause analysis and keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until it's something that we can affect. I mean, there's so many outside factors that people want to blame stuff on, and um, but we actually can't do anything about some of those. So we have to actually find the spot where we have impact, and I think that's what's brilliant about working with you and what you get to do with students in schools.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Eric. To your point, yes, this in this situation, the kiddo was getting exactly what he wanted. He had learned, like you said, the algorithm, or as we would call it in behavior analysis. He learned through his history of reinforcement that this is what works for him. And to your point, some things we can't change, but the things that we can change, that's what we have to focus on, uh,
Hmm.
and really make sure that we are using strategies, effective strategies to improve their lives. So again, it's very rewarding work. It's hard work,
Hmm.
as you know, as you being in the school, you kind of get it.
Hmm.
How
Hmm.
it doesn't happen overnight, but if you have a team committed to it, it can be very beautiful and very meaningful, and you can make some socially significant change doing it.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to change gears on us a little bit. So this one's still about ABA, but I want you to think about what's an unexpected source of inspiration that you've had that influenced your work in education or ABA.
Wow,
Make a connection for us.
wow, unexpected source outside of the field. Um, well, I'll tell you this. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Aubrey Daniels, but this Aubrey Daniels does a lot of OBM work, which stands for Organization Behavior Analysis, and he's not really it's ABA work, but very different. OBM work
Mm-hmm.
is different. So it's looking at the bigger picture, more of how we change the behavior of organizations, of groups of people, and um, I'll say that I went to a conference, and it wasn't a conference particularly for ABA. It was basically a conference for people starting up different businesses and things of that nature. I connected with somebody who had trained directly under Aubrey Daniels. And when I say that this guy blew me away with his approach and opening my eyes up to seeing things from a different light. So I think sometimes you kind of can get tunnel vision from your specialty and how it may look, whether you are OT, PT, speech, principal, like it doesn't matter. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you can hone in on that. And this guy really inspired me and he challenged me to really think outside the box. And a lot of things that we were doing, the procedure that we were using, how we were consulting. And I keep in contact with this guy to this day. I was inspired by him. And he's in a whole different field, by the way. And this guy right here really opened my eyes up. And that really kind of really aligns with my approach of you never know everything.
Right.
If you think once you think you know it, you don't. And this guy really challenged me and my thoughts to really open up my eyes. And I was inspired by that. And it's really affected the way I as a practitioner and a clinician in the field and how I operate.
I'm totally gonna mess up this quote because I never get it right, but this is about like if you have to hammer a nail and you're a carpenter, what are you gonna grab every time is a hammer, right? So how do you look at the nail differently to figure out different ways to, put it into the board? And I think that's what you're talking about is being able to look with perspective and question the way we always do things.
Yes, 100%. And that's how we grow. That's how you learn. You're not gonna, I think, really reach your full potential if you think you have all the answers and you think you know everything. Because what you think you do, you really don't. So,
Right, right. Let's go not ABA. So
okay.
let's say you're in an alternate universe, a multiverse. Uh, if it not ABA, then what? If you hadn't pursued a career in behavior analysis, what would be your alternate?
Wow, I love it, Eric. You really having me think today. I would say sports psychology.
Mm,
I think that's something that really intrigues me. I'm really into health, nutrition, sports, and as an athlete who, had dreams of potentially trying
mm.
to, but just wasn't quite there. The psychology behind sports, I'm really adept at. And I think I can be super impactful as a sports psychologist on, these teams, and probably like at the high school or college level. That's really, I think, where I can be super impactful. So I would
Well,
say sports psychology.
well, you never know. I mean, maybe in your future there's a marriage between sports psychology and ABA, right? Like there's got to be some overlap.
Yeah, there is definitely. I mean, it's two different lanes, but there's definitely some overlap for sure, for sure. I could see myself really thriving in that environment. I will give you a second one really quick though. I'm also a critic, so I like to travel and I like to give different reviews on hotels, and I'm a
Mm.
food person too. So I'd be that person writing, letting the people know, hey, this is what I got, this is what you're gonna get. And I'm big on reading reviews, so I'd be that person writing them and traveling the world, just writing reviews on places that I'm staying and
So,
food that I'm
so
eating.
do you like you take the time to go back in after you stayed at a hotel or somewhere and like you will give them a review?
I'm that person because honestly, I love to travel and I rely on a lot of people's reviews. So I'll go on, Google, whatever it may be, and read those reviews. So I'm like, if I am reading these reviews, I got to be writing some of them too. And
There you
I'm actually
go.
passionate about writing them, because it's important. So yeah, that's
Um,
that's
so I'm hearing like Instagram influencer, like something in those lines as well.
there you go. In my alternate universe, that's where
Hmm.
I'm at, Eric. That's where I'm at.
Last question is an easy one. It's almost so cliche. It's so easy. It's cliche. Um, you get to have dinner with three historical figures. Who
Mm,
you inviting to the table?
wow. Ooh. Okay. Um. I will say one of my biggest inspirations has been Kobe Bryant. Most of our listeners probably know who he is, but he's a former basketball player who's no longer
Hmm.
with us. He's one of the most inspirational people in my life for a lot of different reasons. So I definitely sit down with him. Um, Probably Barack Obama. Very inspired by him too, and the work I would have a ton of questions for him. Not
Hmm.
just from an overall perspective on how he did things, how he chose, and why he didn't do some things, why he did. Not to get political with our listeners, but I think I'd be very just curious on how how he navigated some things and barriers in his life.
Hmm.
And the third one, let me see if I can think outside the box here. Who would I choose? Famous political. Oh,
1 and 2 usually come pretty quick for people. It's that third
yeah,
one, like because you
yeah.
get like now you're thinking about like what is Kobe gonna say to Barack, and if I bring somebody else in, is it gonna ruin supper?
Right, right. It would probably be a musician. I'm a big music guy. I'm just trying to see who would be that person for me. Um, mm, I don't know. I would say maybe Usher. He's a singer. Actually, he just did the Super Bowl.
Just
So,
did the Super Bowl.
so yeah, I love a lot of his hits, and I probably want to sit down with him and pick his brain about a few things. So Probably missing somebody there, but I would say maybe Usher for sure.
I mean, I'm not going to show off today, but Usher and I think do the same workout. I know Usher took his shirt off during the Super Bowl performance. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to show off today.
You know what made me look bad? I know what
Mhm.
you're
Yep. Well, Jeron, as we end here, I want you to think about, do you have any call to action or advice in the work that you do for schools and school leaders?
Yes. So I would say the number one thing that I would say for particularly the work that I'm doing is I would encourage the students to, I mean, not students, the staff members of schools to continue to do the work. And what I mean by continue to do the work is continue to learn about things outside the realm. So for me, it's individuals, underserved communities, learning about cultures that you may not know about. Having your employees do different workshops, do different trainings to
Mhm.
learn more about these things, not just behavior analysis, a lot of these specialties, and just continue to keep that open mind as you move forward and continue to grow your staff. Because that's one thing that I always encourage in my trainings for admin to do. So continue to learn and continue to grow and do those things because ultimately that's how we're all going to grow and that's how we're going to continue to learn. So that would be my call to action.
Awesome. Wonderful. Jeron, it has been nothing short of enlightening, and I want to congratulate you on your passion for ABA as a tool to foster inclusivity, diversity in our educational settings. It's just a really powerful reminder of the impact that dedicated professionals can have when they choose to engage. And super grateful for the insights that you shared today. To our listeners and educators, administrators, remember that the journey towards this inclusive education system is one that we can do together. Nobody's alone on this. We're in this together. So if you're interested in learning more about the work that Jeron is doing or want to connect with them, please connect with us at School Pro, or I know that you can also find them on your own as well, but we'd be happy to connect you. And as we sign off, as we go forward to do this work, remember in everything we do, let's stay PKS, which is positive, kind, and supportive. So until next time, keep inspiring that change and making a difference in the lives of our students, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Eric, thanks for having me.